Welcome to the Not Your Average Knits podcast. My name is kbridgeo. You can find me on Ravelry as kbridgeo. I also have a group on Ravelry, Not Your Average Knits, and on Instagram, I'm also Not Your Average Knits. So I wanted to say welcome to everyone, all of the returning viewers, and everyone who's new as well. I wanted to give a big thank you to two podcasts who mentioned me over the last couple weeks, the Girls in the Yarn Cafe and Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady. Both of them mentioned my podcast. We've picked up a lot of new subscribers, so I'm really grateful to them. Again, love the community and the support of other podcasters, other makers, and all of you that watch out there. So again, thank you so much for coming back, and let's get going. Hope you're all having a great summer. Those of you with kids, I'm sure you're probably wrapping up the school year and planning your vacations. It's so nice to be able to get out and enjoy the weather that's out there finally. Okay, so what's happening now with the Not Your Average Knits podcast? We are doing a Game of Thrones knit along. You can find all of the information in the Not Your Average Knits Ravelry group. We have a bunch of threads in there. We already have 3 finished objects, which is pretty exciting. I'm going to pull a winner for a prize from the finished objects thread the week leading up to the premiere. The premiere is on July 16th. So sometime during that week when I do the next podcast, I'll probably post in the chatter thread just to let you know when I'm going to close the finished objects thread, so you have a general idea of when to kind of wrap up whatever you're working on for your first chance at prizes. If you don't finish by then, not a big deal, because the knit along continues on throughout the whole entire season of Game of Thrones. So I'm going to do another prize winner or 2 or 3 at the very end, the week following the finale, which isn't until the end of August. So you have lots of time. If you haven't started anything, you still have so much time to get something going. There's more details again in the Ravelry group, but basically sort of anything related to Game of Thrones. Very, very flexible theme, whether it's kind of keywords from the show, characters' names, kingdom names. It can be the yarn that's named that. It can be the pattern that's named that. It can be the shape of the object, that kind of thing. So super flexible. So I hope that a lot of people choose to participate. We also have a hashtag, KYAKGOTKAL. If you post any pictures on Instagram, I'd love for you to use the hashtag so I can follow along and see what everybody's doing. So really excited about that. I'm working on mine, which I will show in a little bit. So in terms of what have I done, I don't have any finished objects, which would typically be sad, seeing that it's been almost 2 weeks since my last podcast. But I've made a lot of progress on most of my whips. So that was sort of important to me. I didn't really want to cast on anything new, and there wasn't one particular project that I definitely wanted to finish. I kind of felt like I wanted to make progress on everything that I was kind of working on. So, and I did that. It was pretty kind of structured in that I would kind of be working on something for a little while, put it down, pick up something new, work on that for a little while. It just kind of worked. It sort of gave me enough variety, and I felt like I wasn't, ignoring any one particular project or favoring another one over another. But the first thing that I am doing that I actually can't talk about, so this is a new cast on. Gabrielle Knits is doing another test knit, but it is a secret test knit this time, so you can't see the work in progress. But it actually will be done and shown. It'll be done soon. I'm not sure exactly when it'll get released. But of course, when it is released, I will show you my finished object and obviously direct you to where you could get the pattern as well. I will show you the yarn that I'm using. So this is Madeline Tosh Sport Weight, which is 270 yards, superwash merino wool, 100%. And this colorway is Opaline. So it's a very, it's an interesting colorway. When I've looked at other ones, like in people's stashes or other projects that they've done with it, it can be very different, kind of depending on the dye lot. Mine is very pinkish purpley, and has some kind of natural grayish light tones in there, but some other ones have much less pink and purple and kind of more of this sort of natural color. So it's interesting, and it's much prettier when it's knit up. In the secret test knit that I'm doing, it's really pretty. Like, it's very, very tonal, and it looks really nice. It's a good color to use for a textured, busier pattern, because the color is interesting enough, but yeah, it doesn't take away from the pattern itself. So anyway, so I had 2 skeins of this in my stash. So that's what I'm using for the secret test knit, which, sorry, you can't see because it's a secret. Okay, project number 2. So this is, you've seen it a couple times already. This is the Lemi K by Isabel Kramer. This is in my Bags by Awesome Granny. So I'm doing this for someone in the Will Work for Yarn Ravelry group, which I've also talked about before, where people are looking for someone to make a pattern for them. They send you the yarn. They also send you additional yarn as payment for making the item for them. So I've made a few things for the same woman in that group before, and this one I'm really enjoying. And now that I'm finally at the kind of cabled and lace section, it was just stockinette for a really long time. So now I'm super excited that I think I kept working on this one a lot because I wanted to get to the fun section. So this is where I was, where the stitch marker is where I was last podcast. And then I've made a lot of good progress to the end right there. Let me see if I can show. So you can kind of see the cable and lace section starting. It's a big chart. We were laughing kind of at my knitting group because the squares are so tiny, and even the font is really tiny in the pattern, but I don't mind charts. And once I sort of get what the repeat is going across, I don't even really use the chart for that row. I just sort of remember it as I go. But yeah, so I'm really liking it. So it's going to be a pretty sizable shawl. It's a triangle shawl. I think there's a decent chunk of the cable and lace, and then I think there's a ribbed border. So it should be great when it's done. I'm really excited. This is knit in Woolme's DK, which I'd never used before. I do really like it. It's super soft. It has a really nice twist to it. This color, I don't have the label with me. I'll put the colorway on the screen. But it's a really nice, it's a little kind of tealy green, more than, well, that shows pretty good. And it's got a little bit of tonal quality to it, but you don't really, like in the skein, it didn't really look that way, but once it's knit up, you can kind of see where it's darker and lighter. It's kind of cool. I don't always talk about my needles. These ones are Knitter's Pride carbons. I have the interchangeable set of those. So I mostly use Knitter's Pride carbons and Knitter's Pride royales, and I have interchangeable. Some of them, I have the royales in the short and the longer needle length, and then just the regular carbons in the regular length. I use Chow for some things. If I've had to get a certain needle of a certain length, usually longer length cords, I've got Chow before. And then I have used some Signature. I actually did just buy a couple Signature needles. They were having a 10% off and free shipping sale. So I got I got one circular needle in size 4, so that when I do fingering weight sweaters, which is on my future wish list, I have some good needles for that. And then I got a shorter cord with size 7s. I do a lot of kind of DK and worsted weight scarves. That are some of kind of my go-to for gifts and for the craft fair that I do. And I use 7s a lot for those, so I sort of treated myself to those. It's sort of touch and go with the Knitter's Pride for me. Sometimes I really love them. Other times the joins of the cords aren't always great. And with some of them, particularly the Royale set, not as much the carbons, the tips tarnish. I had some problems with that early on, and they did replace some of the needles for me. But I'm kind of getting at a point where it's like I don't want to just keep replacing it with the same needle if I'm going to have some of the same problems. So I lean more towards the carbons than the royales now, unfortunately. I like knitting with them. I feel like I'm just ruining them very quickly, and it's not like I don't use the same needle that frequently, and it's not like I make super huge projects that they should already sort of be needing to be recycled. I don't know. Anyway, so that's the Lemi K. this next project, so I've made a lot of progress on this. So this is the Free Your Fade shawl by Andrea Mowry. This is in my Mrs. Brown's bag. So this is all in Woolen Boon yarn. I'd had this in my stash. I'll show the yarn labels first. So you've seen this before. So these are all Woolen Boon. These are my colorways, Woodland, Ever, and Heartland. Okay, so last podcast, sorry, it's all tangled. All right, so last podcast, I was here. This is my Knitty by Nature butterfly progress keeper. So I had only done this. So I added on, faded in the second color. So this is the Woodland, this is Ever, I think. So I did the whole green section. So now I'm fading in the Heartland. So you can see the sort of gold and orange and brown sort of color of that yarn. So it's really cool. I like the shape of it too. You're increasing very slowly, but it's gonna make like a really cool, because this is such a little edge, it's gonna wrap really nice. Tangled. So yeah, so this is the Heartland color, which is the one that I'm fading in now. I'm anxious to see, I'm still doing the fade part. I'm not at the section yet where the Heartland color is the only one I use. So I'm really excited to see kind of how this knits up on its own. I would say it's probably, it's hard to even say, I don't know, 20 stitches or so, no, probably more than that, of one color before it changes to the next. So I don't think it's gonna pool, but I don't know, we'll see. I mean, because the shawl is increasing so slowly, like the color will change because it's not going to be the same number of stitches every row. So I'm kind of excited. So I think I said last time, so typically this is just supposed to be 3 colors. So the next will be the solid part of the Heartland, and then you cast off. But I think I'm going to do more of the cream colored at the end, just because I really do want to have these two. I get so blown out. Oh, there you go. I just love those two next to each other. So I think after I do the big solid section in this, I'm going to do more in this one. So I don't know whether I'll make it bigger to do the additional 4th color, or if I'll shorten the Heartland color and finish off with the other one. I don't know. But I'm excited. I really like this. This is my first time actually using the Woolen Boon yarn. I hoard it. I have tons of skeins, and actually she just opened up if you're interested and if you haven't tried her yarn before, she's doing a mystery yarn club. She does one every quarter. I did one in January, February, March, and it was mystery date. I think I showed a skein or 2 from it when I first started the podcast. April, May, June I didn't do. It was more spring colors, and I'm not as kind of bright pastel-y of a girl. And now she's doing another one for July, August, September. I don't think she's doing a theme for this one, which makes me a little nervous, but I'm trying to go out of my color comfort zone, and now that I'm doing socks, I feel like I could do socks in kind of any color. So anyway, so she just opened up signups for that quarterly club if you're interested, woolenboon.com. And I think she's leaving it up for a week, so there's no certain number of spots or anything like that. But I love that her colors are so multi-dimensional. I feel like it's always a good yarn to have in your stash, because something could come up where you're going to be able to mix and match and find one of her yarns that will match something else, because there's so much color and so much speckle that sort of, I don't know, like I said, like these 3 like weren't meant to go together, but I just feel like they do. A lot of people used her yarn too for the different Find Your Fade shawls and the So Faded sweater and stuff too. So anyway, I'm a big fan. And I'm trying not to lose stitches. Okay, so that is the Free Your Fade. Okay, and the final thing is my own design for the Game of Thrones knit along. So this has been in my Mr. Indigo's bags, which I love. I've talked about before. It's so interesting too because so this is from Mr. Indigo, who is the Mr. of Indigo Amy, who is half of the Periscoping Sisters podcast with her sister Debbie. I started watching them fairly recently, super well known. You hear about them from a lot of other podcasters, but then just recently started trying to binge watch from the beginning and finally caught up. I think they have 30 episodes or something. So it was neat because I've also watched other podcasters that they work with and collaborate with a lot, and I'm caught up on those. It was interesting to kind of go back and then sort of see the other end of those collaborations, which is really interesting. But anyway, so I didn't know that they hadn't been doing these bags for very long. Like, it was on one of the more recent episodes that we just got caught up on. And again, I love them. Like, they're just really, I don't know, smushy and soft, and I love the magnets, and the fabric choices are really cool. Anyway, it's one of my favorites. Okay, so this is the main color is my Wolfiend yarn in the High Garden colorway, which is a Game of Thrones colorway. This is in her MCN sock. She does have a lot of Game of Thrones colorways in her shop right now, and she was doing a 3-month club for Game of Thrones as well, and that is on its way. It's been shipped, so I'm so excited to get those, and it was mystery, so I have no idea what's coming. So this was the ball of the main color. It's a little hard to see. It's like a champagne color, but then has really interesting specks of like red and pink and light blue and dark blue. And then I'm also using 3 mini skeins. And these are Leading Men Fiber Arts. I got a mini set from them, and those are 3 of the colors from that. Okay, so I showed this last podcast. And like the next day after the podcast, I frogged the whole thing. There was just something that was bothering me about it. I think if you remember, I was doing these kind of textured sections in the main color, in between where the minis would stripe. It's funny with designing, like because I'm a very visual and sort of math oriented knitter, when I'm designing something, if I didn't have to write it down and wasn't planning on sharing it with anyone, I wouldn't have to write it down, and I could just look at something and go. When you have to convert what you're just sort of knitting on the fly into written directions, you don't really want to say like, oh, knit until you see the this and the that and that. Like, if you're not a visual knitter where you can actually kind of read your knitting and it just kind of makes sense, it's really hard to write that kind of stuff down. So I think some of those sort of more textured sections didn't convert very well when I tried to write them out. And I try to keep my patterns fairly concise. Like, I want it to fit in 2 pages, and that includes photos and abbreviations and all of those kinds of things. Like, I don't like it to go more than 2 pages, and maybe I shouldn't care about that. I should just sort of write out the pattern the best I can, or make whatever complicated pattern I want and not worry about length. But I don't know. So far, I've just mostly done ones, I think, that are just 2 pages, and I don't know. So anyway, so I try to make things that are sort of repeatable, that I can say, repeat this, until you have 5 stitches left, or until the stitch marker, or until this or that. And the way I was doing it, it wasn't working out that way. I would have had to write out way too many rows. Anyway, so I started it over, and I really like it. I did have thoughts of frogging again, but I didn't. I stuck with it. Okay, enough talking. So this is what I have so far. And again, it's not super big because I had to frog and start over. So you can obviously see where the main color is, and these are the 3 minis, and then I'm starting another section repeating the mini colors. Screensaver. Okay. So let me see if I can show it close without the needles banging. That's pretty good. So you can see sort of in the main color sections, it's mostly stockinette, and then there's sort of a garter ridge. And also as part of the garter ridge, so I think I decided on a name. I think I'm going to name it Who Wears the Crown, because I think this season is pretty much all about who's gonna sort of wear the crown and be the ultimate ruler. So I was thinking, since this is sort of crescent shaped, I just had crown in my head, and I knew I wanted to do these stripes, which kind of remind me of a crown too. So in this garter section, I have these little garter bumps. So it's like a circle. I don't know if you can kind of see that. And I have a few of them like along the edge. And like the top section only has one of these little circles, and then the next row has 3 of them, and then the bigger edge down here has like 5 of them. So I think once it's blocked, you'll be able to see it a little bit more. I don't know. And this was part of the section that I was like, maybe I should just do it stockinette. But what I think I will do, because I did have to, this is one area where I really had to say how many stitches to count to a certain point, where I think I might do alternative directions to just make this section stockinette and not do this, or just do a garter ridge and not do these little circles. So I may just do a little note in the pattern about alternate patterns. But anyway, I did keep the mini part the same, because I think I had said last time I love the way these like huge eyelets show. Then this section on the bottom, this is kind of you can't really see that well. It's kind of a broken rib. Kind of hard to see, but it's just like a broken rib section. And then now where I'm doing the stripes, I'm doing the eyelets on both the top and the bottom. So I'm doing a blue one, a main color, this raspberry color, a main color. Okay, so as I was saying, so on this section of the shawl, I'm now doing stripes in the minis and the main color, but then having the eyelets be on both the top and the bottom, where on these I just had it on the top of the contrasting color, and then it just sort of blended into the main color. But down here I'm going to do sort of the little double-sided ones. So I'm going to do the main color next, and then the darker red, and then I think I'm going to do a bigger section of the darker red, and then go back to this pink and then end with the blue. So it's kind of like a mirrored section of stripes. Then I just have to keep weighing my yarn. So after every section I've been weighing my yarn to just sort of see how much each of these kind of sections is using. The shape of the shawl will be crescent shaped, and that means I'm actually increasing 6 stitches every 2 rows. So it gets big pretty quick. So, you know, even though this stripe only took whatever number of grams, this stripe takes a lot more because it's on the bigger part of the shawl. So I've been doing lots of weighing just to sort of, I don't want to run out of yarn at the end. So I think after I'm done the stripe section, I'll probably do another little section of this broken rib for as long as I can, maybe, or maybe make it equal to this length. I don't know. And then just kind of see what I have left, weigh all my minis. I might do a cast off in one of the mini colors, depending upon how much. I think I'll probably have the most left of blue. I'm not sure. So we'll see. I'll just decide then. And I think that'll be good too, because then anyone that's doing the pattern, depending upon what they have left, they can choose to do a cast off in whatever color. And I don't typically like the different kinds of sort of stretchy bind offs. So what I think I might do is on the row before the bind off, do something with like a lot of increases to add a bunch of stitches to the needles, and then do a regular cast off, so then there's a lot more stitches to cast off, and then hopefully it won't be too tight. I don't know, give it a try. Anyway, so this is Who Wears the Crown. I think that's what I'm sticking with for a name. I will definitely want test knitters. I don't always do test knitters in my designs. Usually I'm so, you know, careful, and I check and recheck and redo my directions, but with this one, especially because of the way I did this little garter circle section, I just really want people to test knit. So if it's something that you think you would be interested in, message me either on Ravelry or on Instagram, and let me know. I'll probably just pick a few people to do it for me. I don't know, we'll see. I could probably even give you some of the directions now if you wanted to start right away. Basically, this is taking, let's see how many yards is in the Wool Fiend. The Wool Fiend is 100 grams, 400 yards. So it's 400 yards of the main color and then 20 gram minis, 3 20-gram minis. So yeah, so that's that. Oh, and size, I'm using size 4 needles, and you need a pretty big cord. I think this cord is 47 inches, and I mean, it's definitely on. I mean, the yarn's thin enough that I still have ways to go if I smush the project, but anyway, so that's that. I'm really excited about it. I love the yarn. I messaged Emily of Wool Fiend and told her that I think if I only had to knit with one color of yarn for the rest of my life, it would be this High Garden colorway. I love it. I feel like I need to make a sweater with it someday. Anyway, so that's that. So that's it for what I'm doing. So now I want to talk about what have I got. And it's kind of a lot. It's been sort of a crazy 2 weeks. So the first thing I want to talk about, and this is kind of the most exciting. So you all know that I purchase a lot of my yarn from Eat Sleep Knit, and they're the ones that have sort of the annual yarnathon where you're on a team and you get points for every yard of yarn you buy, and they give you scratch tickets in every order, and they send you candy, and they send you lots of like little trinkets, and it's a really, really fun website. Anyway, so they're based out of Georgia, and they're moving warehouses. So they're built a brand, so they're also a actual local yarn shop. So if you're down there, you can go to their shop. They're not just an online retailer, which makes them even cooler that they have a regular storefront and then also sell tons of yarn to people online. So anyway, so they're moving to a brand new built warehouse and store. So I guess they've been going through and finding like a lot of their old, little notions and whatnot from previous yarnathons, because they've been doing this for a few years. I only found them last year, or my friend Caitlin found them and told me about them last year. But they've been doing this yarnathon thing for a lot of years, and every year the yarnathon is a different theme. So last year it was space. This year it's all like Candyland. So the little prizes that they send you typically have that kind of theme on that. So they found, I guess, a lot of old stuff from previous years. So they're posting a lot of stuff on the website, t-shirts and notepads and pens and pins and things like that. One of the things that they did was they had, I think they called it Lotto Latte. They had these mugs, Eats Like That. And inside of it was, oh, that's funny that you see that little, okay, the glare. Inside of it was 4 Lotto scratch ticket cards, and they were ones from earlier years. So I don't know if it's every year, but they get like new Lotto cards. Sorry, I had like head cut off. So because they sort of have different prizes. So on the Lotto cards, you can either win yards that will count towards sort of your progress in the yarnathon. You could get store credit. You could get a skein of yarn. You might get, one of mine that I won a couple months ago was a tote bag. A lot of different things. This year, because sort of the theme is Candyland, you're actually moving up different lands to sort of get to the best thing. One of the things they did on the scratch ticket was actually you could jump to different lands. So they made new scratch tickets for this year because of that. Anyway, so they have a bunch of old ones with different prizes that they've done over the years. So the first of the 4 tickets that I scratched off on this was $100 of store credit. $100 of store credit. I told my husband, I'm like, oh my God, I just won $100. The second ticket, I think I got $5. And then this last 2 tickets, I got a mitten kit. And I was like, what's a mitten kit? And I figured, since it's old, maybe they don't even have that yarn anymore. So maybe I won't even get anything. Like, I don't know. It turns out that the mitten kits were these really cool Fair Isle mittens. So you got the pattern, I guess. And then it was made with 2 skeins of Tosh DK. So I don't know for sure. I just sent them in. But I think for each of those mitten kits, I'll get 2 skeins of Tosh DK. So I won $105 of credit and 4 skeins of Tosh DK for buying an $8 mug with Lotto tickets. pretty awesome. So now I'm all stressed about what to do with the $100, because I figured, do I keep it just in the credit and as I buy stuff, whatever, it just comes off of it? Or do I earmark it for something specific? Do I buy a sweater's quantity worth of yarn, knowing that essentially it's a free sweater? But I did already buy a lot of yarn at the Web's tent sale for sweaters, so I don't know if I really want to buy more. So I don't know. So I just started looking at different projects, kind of trying to think of certain things I want to do and what yarn I would use. I did come across, so I became obsessed with the yarn Malabrigo Finito, which is a heavier fingering weight yarn, and it's made out of a certain kind of wool. I don't know what it is. I should have looked it up, but a really, really much softer, awesome wool. And I first came across it, so again, like I showed with the Lemi K pattern, so I was doing another project for this woman in the Will Work for Yarn group, and I was making her, I think it was called the Peeping Cowl by Joji Locatelli, similar to the 3-color cashmere cowl in that it was that sort of like round tube cowl with different patterns and different colors. And the yarn that this woman sent me to make it was all of this Malabrigo Finito and all of these different colors that she wanted put together. So the yarn that she had me keep as sort of a gift for, or a payment for doing this cowl for her, was more Malabrigo Finito. It's so soft, so soft. But I think it costs like $12 or $15, and I think each skein is only 50 grams. I think it's only 200 yards. So I mean, it's fairly expensive, but it's awesome. So anyway, so I have some, so after she had, paid me with some of those skeins, and then I had gone on D-Stash on Ravelry to kind of see if anyone else was selling them for a less expensive price than what you would buy them retail. And some people were, so I bought a couple colors here and there, but sort of the colors that I have, none of them really go together to sort of do a project with them together. But I'm like, I can't buy more until I either decide on a pattern or use what I have. So I've been kind of looking to see what other patterns are out there that use it, because I was like, oh, maybe that's a good idea to use with my $100. So there is I think it's Melanie Berg, I think, has the Sunwalker shawl, and I think her pattern was actually made in Finito, and I think it takes 6 or 7 skeins, so that would pretty much be my whole entire store credit. But it's this awesome shawl, and I can only imagine what it will feel like in that yarn. So anyway, big decisions to make on how to spend my store credit, and then I'll let you know what Tosh TK yarn I get. I think they'll just send me, I think I put as a preference blue on one and purple on another, so we'll see what I get for colors. And then I did finally send in my ticket for the tote bag, so we'll see what that is. I think it's just kind of like one of those like recyclable grocery sack kind of things, but who doesn't need more bags? Anyway, so that's my crazy eat, sleep, knit story. And so when I placed the order to get that mug, I also bought a couple other things. This is Malabrigo worsted in the Malanga colorway. So I think I bought some Malabrigo chunky in the same color. I don't know why I'm obsessed with it lately. And I don't typically like super rainbow colors, but I feel like these are like really jewel toned. So I don't know, I might just make a pair of, this is what I used, I think on the first episode I showed a pair of fingerless mitts in purple that I made for my cousin Christy. I think I might use the same pattern and make some fingerless mitts in this. And then I got another skein of hedgehog skinny singles. This colorway is Pilgrim. And they had 2 different lots. What's nice about Eat Sleep Knit too is that if they notice that they get yarn in that are very different lots and where the yarn looks significantly different from each other, they'll post it as 2 different colorways, like Lot A and Lot B, and then have pictures of each, so you really know like what you're buying, and I love that about them. Anyway, so this is Pilgrim. This was Lot B, where it was a lot more of the blue and then just a little bit of this kind of green color. I think last episode I had showed that I bought a skein of, I think the colorway was Concrete, and I wanted to make an exordium shawl. So I was kind of just looking for more hedgehog, and I actually might use this with the other hedgehog that I bought last time for that shawl. They're not I'm so picky with colors. Like, I feel like they need to be so matchy-matchy for me to use them, but I feel like I need to get out of that, and as long as they're they contrast enough and they're sort of in the same family. I need to be okay with that. So anyway, so I just kind of like this color and got that one. So that was my Eat Sleep Knit stuff. Then so I have 2 Yarn Box subscriptions to show. So the first one is Yarn Box Luxe, which shipped June 1st. So hopefully everyone has theirs and it's not a spoiler, but spoiler alert if you didn't. So the Yarn Box Luxe is a little more expensive. You usually get nicer yarn. You always get nicer yarn, and you get like trinkets, you know, little notions. So this time we got a tape measure, a little teapot tape measure, and a lotion bar. What's the name of it? Love and Leche. Sorry, Love and Leche. I have it down there. So those are the 2 sort of extras that we got in the box. But the yarn that we got is Anzula, which I'm super excited about. So what's fun too on the Ravelry page, I think I mentioned this to you guys before, there's a spoilers thread, so people try to guess, and if we guess right, they tell us that we're right. So someone had guessed that it was going to be this yarn, so I purchased the Luxe box because I knew that this yarn was in it. Defeats the purpose of a surprise subscription box. But so this is Anzula Croquet, which is DK. This colorway is Madam. So pretty. So we got 3 skeins of it, and yardage is 230 yards. It's 50% merino and 50% silk, which again I think is my favorite blend of yarn. And I just love the color. I was hoping for red, so I was so excited when I saw it. I've said before, you can sort of say bright or muted, and a favorite color and a least favorite color. And Luxe, usually there's less color options than in the classic box. So I think there were only 2 muted colorways and 2 bright colorways, so I knew it was 50-50 chance, so I was very excited to get the red. Because this is a lot. That's a lot of yardage. 690 yards of DK. This is going to be for me. Whatever I make with it is for me. If anyone has any ideas of a shawl or cowl with about 700 yards of DK, let me know. Then the Yarn Box Classic, which just shipped on the 15th, so it might be a spoiler still for some of you, so spoiler for Yarn Box Classic. And this month too, people guessed it, so we knew kind of what was coming. This is, let's see which color I'll show you. So this is Big Bad Wool, and it's their Weepaca base, which is worsted, and it is 50% merino, 50% baby alpaca, and it's 95 yards, a 50-gram skein. But we got 5 of them. Some people got fingering weight, so they actually had 2 different weights per this box. And in your preferences, you can say, you know, there's the option that's kind of like, if you do send 2 weights in one box, which would I rather have, the heavier or the lighter? And I had heavier on there, so I got the worsted. Yeah, it's pretty good. So I got these 5 colors. The one, let's see, all the way on your left is sort of a minty green, and then a lavender, and then a teal. This is kind of a sky blue, and then that's more of like a turquoise. I'm not always a huge fan of alpaca, but I think blended with the merino, I don't know, I do kind of like this. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to keep it. I just don't know yet what I'll make with it. Maybe a cowl. Now, Helen in my knitting group also got worsted, but she got, oh, actually, I have it. Hang on, I'll go get it. Okay. So she got a different colorway. She got worsted also. So these are the 5 that she got. So it's a very natural white, a kind of salmon pink, a red, but it has a little bit of an orange red to it, and then this kind of tannish cream color and this darker purple. She doesn't like alpaca. She's very sensitive to certain yarns, so she's mostly a merino, silk, nylon person. She doesn't do well with more of kind of those alpaca mohair kinds of fibers, or like a rougher wool. She gets hives and stuff. So anyway, so she said that us in our knitting group could either have these or we might divvy them up. Some people might take some of them. Because I have sort of this lavender color with her darker purple, I really like those together. So I don't know, we may mix and match, and if there are any colors that we don't want, we can always sell them on T-Stash on the Ravelry group page for Yarn Box. So that's that. So it's kind of fun. It's a pretty, I never heard of the company before, Big Bed Wool, but when I went on Ravelry to see what other people make with their yarn, there's a lot of projects on there, so people seem to like it. This other one, so this, I follow them on Instagram. The yarn company is Tilting Planet. No idea where I first heard about them or why I started following them. But she posted, she was knitting, I think socks, something stockinette, probably socks, with this colorway. And even though I don't like orange, I just loved this. So this is Tilting Planet. And this colorway is the Geologist. 75% superwash merino. Oh, Apollo base is hers. 25% nylon, and it's 437 yards. It's just pretty. Like, it's kind of just a cream base with this little bit of orange and black and gray. I don't know. It's kind of just so subtle. And in stockinette, it just looked really, really pretty. So I don't know. It's kind of an impulse buy. One of those, saw a picture of it and you go and get it. So anyway, I just liked it. They have a lot of really cool colorways too. So follow them on Instagram as well. Tilting Planet. One of my other, I guess, Instagram purchases, this is from the Scrappy Thread. So there's stuff in it, so, sorry. Focus. Okay, we're back. So this is her flat notions pouch, which she, I think, just started making. She makes a lot of different bags, but I think this was like a new kind of design for her. And they were super cute, and I've been kind of looking for a newer notions pouch. The one I have is very, very tiny. And so like even like a cable needle almost like just fits in there tight because it's so small. So I wanted something a little bit bigger. And this one's perfect. I mean, I have scissors and a tape measure, bunch of stitch markers, cable needles, darning needles, lots of stuff in here, and there's still tons of room. And then she has a cute little zipper pull too that comes with it, and these little tabs, you can actually like hook them. If you have like a carabiner on something, you could hook this to it. So yeah, she had lots of different fabrics. This is actually, I think, the second time that she's posted a shop update, and I didn't move quick enough to get the first, but I moved quick enough to get this one, so I really like it. I think it's fun. So go check her out too, the Scrappy Thread. And finally, and then we'll be done, Knit Picks came out with new Felici colors in their fingering sock weight. I never got the whole craze of it until I actually bought some and made my first pair of socks, or not first pair, second pair of socks with them, and it's so soft. And I think I've said to you before, so I do a craft fair in the fall. I'm always kind of looking for quicker items to make, and I don't tend to make like gloves and hats and those kinds of things just because I don't know, I'm just a bigger fan of bigger items and less sort of smaller, tedious things. But I do need to kind of build up some stock this year of things to sell, so Felici will just be good to do. I might do some socks, but I mean, I think it'll be good for gloves and hand, like fingerless mitts and some hats and stuff too. So anyway, so I went online and bought some of that, which I'll show in a second. But the first thing I got is Knit Picks Gloss Fingering, and these two colors are Blackberry and Velveteen, and this is their 70% wool, 30% silk, and they are 50 gram skeins, 220 yards. So pretty. So they just recently came out with a call for submissions for a shawl design using more than one color. So you don't actually have to send them a finished sample, you just sort of send a picture, a sketch of the design and a swatch of what it will look like. And you don't typically have to knit it in the yarn that you would suggest the pattern be knit in, but I wanted to kind of see it and play around with it, so I bought these two colors. So I think that's what I'm going to do my swatch in. I also have a maroony color that initially I was going to use, I might actually go with this, and maybe I'll do 3 colors. I don't know. But anyway, that's what I bought this for. And I really, again, merino and silk I love. So, and I like these 2 colors together. Okay, and then Felici, man. Okay, so I hadn't bought any of the worsted weight Felici yet. So I bought 3. This is their rustic colorway. This is Baker Street. And Lake something, Lost Lakes, which is a little brighter than what I usually go for, but still pretty. Then I got 2 skeins of fingering weight in 2 of the new colors that they got. This one is Steamer Trunk. It's not focusing, but so the color is kind of browns and then like a maroon. There, you can see it pretty good right there. Just really like those colors. And then the other one is Stone Harbor, which is just very beachy. So I got 2 skeins of each of these 2. Maybe for socks, maybe for arm warmers or mitts or something. All right, that's it. That's all I got today. I think it was enough. Lots of whips that I have going on. Really hope that I will be done at least half of them, I hope, by the next time I podcast. I'm not sure whether that will be next week or the week after. It might actually be next week. Again, the week prior to July 16th, we'll be pulling for prizes from the Finished Objects thread for the Game of Thrones knit along. So if you're working on anything, we also have a chatter thread. So if you have a work in progress, definitely post a picture or tell us what you're working on, so I have a good sense of how many people out there are actually doing some projects. And yeah, so we'll pull our first set of prizes. I have some skeins from Wolfine for a prize. I have Yarn Candy Studios has some stitch markers that she donated for a prize, and Down Sheepy Lane also donated a skein of yarn and a stitch marker. So lots of really cool prizes and a couple more on the way. So I really hope that you participate. It's really fun. Looking forward to the premiere of the show. It should be a crazy season. My husband's been binge watching a lot of the old episodes, was actually just watching the pilot just a couple days ago, and we were just noting how young all of the children characters were in those first couple episodes. And again, too, if you want to apply to test knit the Who Wears the Crown pattern that I'm designing, get in touch with me. And that's it. Until next time, everybody. Thank you for joining. I realized I didn't say that this is episode 9. This is episode 9. So next week will be exciting to celebrate our 10th episode. So thanks to all of you for watching this whole thing and keeping coming back and watching these. I really appreciate it. I love the support. If you have any comments or messages, please message below this video and subscribe if you haven't. We're going to do some great prizes for the 500 subscriber giveaway. So just less than 200 to go to get there. So definitely subscribe if you haven't yet. And that's it. Happy summer. Keep on knitting. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye.